All right, Lee. Well, thank you so much for one, reaching out to me, and then two, having some really great ideas about how to improve just our pipelines experience in general. I do have a notes doc that I added to your invite, and I'll drop it in the agenda here just so that I can start recording some of your thoughts down and we can share it with the product manager over our pipeline execution group. He's on PTO this week, so I wanted to make sure that I connected with you. We got your thoughts down, created any new issues that we needed to, and then send this recording over to James whenever he gets back from PTO, and hopefully we can start coming to ground with some of these ideas.
Awesome. It
Do
sounds
you?
like you're super organized. I didn't catch the docs link in the, oh, did you say you chatted it?
I just
Chatted
chatted
it,
it
yeah.
here. Yeah.
Sorry, I thought it was in the invite.
Okay.
Okay, no worries.
I,
I'm glad because I was about to say that I'm super disorganized and was just going to kind of touch on random bits and pieces, but it's awesome that you've got a bit of structure.
yeah, I think our first place I would like to start will be the issue that you did submit, where you talked a little bit about using scheduled pipelines for something that I actually haven't seen before, which is where your company is going through a couple of different transitions, where you're looks like you're like replacing certain tools with
Yep.
GitLab. So I would love to learn a little bit more about those, maybe a specific example of a legacy system that you're replacing, and why pipeline schedules would be a natural fit for that.
Cool. So let me go off on just a tiny little tangent.
Sure.
But like one of the things that we're trying to replace is our kind of support and help desk type system. So at the moment we only use oh God, my brain. We only use GitLab for our merge requests. We use package repository and loads of other bits and pieces, but we don't use issues. We only use merge requests. So we've got a separate help desk system, a bit like you guys have got Zendesk or Salesforce or whatever it is, so we manage all of our kind of issues, our tickets in another system. So one of the really big projects I've been focused on working on is trying to get our help desk migrated over to GitLab for issues. And that's kind of all the CRM work that you may or may not know that I've been working on. So that's a slightly different note, but it kind of encompasses the trying to transition systems and move across. So on a slightly unrelated but fairly similar sort of note, we are in the process of upgrading other systems. Our clients are moving to the cloud. We've got various different bits and pieces. So we provide all sorts of technical solutions, system implementations, consultancy, system process reviews, you name it, we do it. And one of the things that we do quite a lot of is what I would call like integrations or interfaces. So that kind of, I guess you could also put it under automation. So it's where you've maybe got two different systems, or maybe even just one system, and you want to grab some data from the system, maybe massage it, manipulate it a little bit, and then maybe push it into a different system, or push it back in, or generate a report, or whatever it might be. So it might be a simple, I think we had a conversation, said it might be a small CLI type script, but more often than not, we're working with .NET. So we're writing little console apps that contain the code that will connect to these systems using APIs or however they use, grab some data, do some work with that data, and then push it somewhere else, do something with it. So yeah, in the past, we would always have servers, generally on our client premises. So we would build these apps, these console apps, these interfaces or integrations. And then when they were ready, we would compile them and deploy them manually. I'm going to say for the moment, we haven't really got to the CD bit of CI/CD. We're slowly getting there. We've put in automated testing in and linting and that kind of stuff. But we're not really there with CD. So manually deploying. And yeah, this kind of brainwave that probably really should have come to me a very long time ago was that, well, why do we need a server with these things deployed? Can we not just run them in CD in a pipeline? Can we not just spin up a Docker image, execute or compile and execute the app, the interface, the integration, and you're done? We no longer need to maintain and manage these servers, cost savings. We don't need to worry about deploying the latest versions and making sure that we only deploy once we've merged to master, and all of our sort of, what do you call it, Git flow processing. It just takes a whole load of the headaches out. So something else that spurred me onto this was with the move of the help desk, we want to start using GitLab triage. And it was the figuring out that GitLab triage runs as a scheduled pipeline, I think, is what got me thinking about all of this stuff and how we can use it. So forgive the very long-winded response there, but yeah, so scheduled pipelines, starting to kind of test it, and yeah, it looks brilliant, does exactly what we want, but I'm starting to think about, well, how do we then have visibility if one of these integrations falls over, maybe permanently, maybe just temporarily, maybe it's replicating data from one system to another, and there's a field that's too long, that in the past we've never had that problem, and now it's violating some kind of constraint, or maybe there were too many records, or whatever it might be. So starting to understand how can we better monitor and have visibility of that kind of thing. So I get notifications of just about everything at the moment, and I really need to reduce those and change my settings, I think, in GitLab, so I don't. When I did some research, it looks like scheduled pipelines notify the owner by default, and I presume that's only on the change. So if a previously successful pipeline is now failing, or a previously failing pipeline is now successful, so that's okay. One of the things I think I said to you, or on the issue I suggested, was we could create a sort of bot, a fake user, and create the scheduled pipelines as that user with a special email address, so that that's where the notifications go. But my immediate thought was, surely this is configurable somewhere. When we set up the scheduled pipeline, we should be able to say, notify this email address, or these users, or this group, or something along those lines. I found that you do have an integration to configure. Go on.
One note on that. Yeah, you're good. One note on that. So I think that you are able to specifically subscribe to where you're not the owner of a pipeline. You can subscribe for that project of notifications on failed pipelines, fixed pipelines, and I think that it's successful pipeline. So anybody can subscribe to that for that repository. Awesome. So I'll drop this in our agenda.
Yeah, wicked. I'll have a look at that after the call, just to see how you actually go about doing that.
So yeah, that's the notification email part. You should be able to do all types of all participants, not just the author of the pipeline or the owner of the pipeline. Beyond that question, I did want to clarify, these integrations that you're building, yep. They sound a little bit like just an app, which is how, they are currently running on a server, which could be a Kubernetes cluster instead, right? Or a container of some sort.
Exactly.
Okay. And when you say you want to monitor the integration, could it be the same thing as monitoring the environment to see whenever a job has been deployed to that environment, to make sure that you are expecting the same sort of operations? Is it availability kind of metrics, or what kind of metrics do you really look for?
Yeah, in this instance, primary first and foremost, it's success and failure. The idea of most of these, we're not as advanced as Kubernetes at the moment, and the idea of this is that they're throwaway environments, i.e. the pipeline runs, it spins up a Docker image, it does what it needs to do, and then it destroys itself. So the idea is that they are very much scheduled tasks, scheduled scripts, integrations, apps, whatever you want to call it. So they might run every minute, they might run every hour, every day, or every week. It could vary. But yeah, kind of really wanting to see, oh, it's currently failing, or in the last 7 days it's failed like 10% of the time, or that is starting to get those sorts of metrics, as well as the kind of follow-up that I added a bit more complexity, and said it'd also be nice to be able to get a little bit of output out of the sort of job, the pipeline as well. Just I process this number of records, or something along those lines. I think they're possibly different things. They're maybe not the same problem, the same solution, but in my eyes, they're all about kind of visibility, monitoring, that kind of thing.
Yeah, for this conversation, we'll split them because I think pipeline schedules and the notifications for pipeline schedules, there might be certain notifications that aren't in our current notification structure. So for example, like when a scheduled pipeline runs, there's no notification on that. So like if you have a scheduled pipeline and it starts to run, that you're not going to get notified. It'll just run, and then you'll get notified of success or failure, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that there might be an opportunity to enhance, like, okay, well, my scheduled pipeline has started, it's running, so that you have real-time information on when your integration is supposed to be live, and then you don't find out that it's not live on success or failure. So like there might be an opportunity to extend the notifications. Whereas like the pipeline index page, there's a ton of information today on pipeline index pages. And I think that there's an opportunity for maybe using like the new artifacts page that we're building out for you to understand, well, for this ephemeral job that is my integration, what has been produced out of that job and what's currently, what's the performance of that, and like seeing the latest artifact that's been successful, the latest artifact that is failed, so that you can see at a glance the history of these deployments of the integrations, from an artifacts point of view rather than from like the pipeline point of view.
Yeah, exactly. And I've lost my trail of thought a little bit there. So yeah, I guess it's kind of, because we're really small, so it's kind of seeing how we can, things that maybe we're over engineering at the moment, to find like quick, easy, simple solutions. So the real go to town on it solution, I guess, is using like Kibana and I don't know if Elastic or whatever the tools are, something where we're sending logs to a log server and going crazy. But we want to build, like, the most basic interface might be like a bash script that uses curl or something like that to grab some data and then FTPs, a couple of lines of code. And it would be super awesome to be able to make that into something without having to write hundreds of lines of code. I think that probably makes a bit of sense. And that's what these scheduled pipelines are starting to make me realize. It's like, well, we don't need to deploy to servers and set up scheduled tasks on a Windows server and scrape logs using a cactus monitoring tool and all these crazy things, when actually we can just run it straight from here, and yeah, jobs are good. And
Okay, that's helpful. So I think we have a really good documented perspective of how we can improve scheduled pipelines, and most of it's around notifications. So once you check out the documentation that I have in our agenda here, on notifications, let me know what enhancements we need to make to allow you to have more awareness of when that scheduled task is happening. And then I want us to pivot now to dive into like the details and metrics that you're looking for, when, like, in the pipeline index view. You have expanded a little bit about that, and like, okay, you want some information on count of things that are being processed, but you've also mentioned before, are you violating a certain constraint? And you want to be able to see that from a particular point of view. So I'd love to hear what your perspective is there.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. One probably wouldn't sit on the kind of pipelines page itself. So this is what I knocked up the SQL that I shared on the issue. So this is pulling from Postgres directly, and I've just set one dummy, one real, and one kind of work in progress integration interface schedule pipeline up in our GitLab instance. And you can see the success rate over the last 7 days. So how many of the jobs have succeeded, how many have failed. And this metric is actually the number of failures in the last 7 days or something along those lines. But you can see I've got some other information available here. Obviously messed that up a little bit, so I can see what the most recent status was, when the next run is, when the most recent run is, and there's a bunch of other bits and pieces that I can stick on there. So, you know, this, I think, the challenge I often find with GitLab is that you've got people that have like one massive project and that's it. So then you've got people that have got a group, and then you've got people who have got an entire instance. So I think that this is a little bit specific to our needs, but I'm sure there are similar people that have a lot of projects on GitLab and would like more of an overview, a window into all of those projects, so to speak. So this is, rather than us having to go into each of these individual projects and see how it's doing. So that would be where I said about how many records it processed. I'd probably be kind of more happy to go in if I wanted to specifically see this ConnectWise interface. I want to go into that on the pipelines page. I can see the last 10 runs, or I can page and see the last 100 runs, and you know, that time it ran and it processed 100 records and so on and so forth. But at summary view, I don't think I need anywhere near that level of detail. I just kind of want to see, here are all our integrations. This one's green because it's running, you know, 99% success rate. This one's amber because it's not quite so high, and this one's red because it's awful and it's currently failing. So that, again, forgive me, because I think we're covering another 2 points here. We're covering the additional info on the artifacts page, or whatever page it is, which is the lower level than this, but this is kind of a higher level. I would like to see somewhere in GitLab where, you know, there's an analysis pages that have graphs and charts. And
so we do have one view here, like for example, under CI/CD analytics, we do have, and I'll share my screen real quick. Like we
awesome,
do have,
thank you.
Like overall statistics for a particular project, where you total pipelines, successful pipelines, and then failed pipelines, and you can like filter by all that by clicking into it, and then you get success ratio.
And that is, you're looking at this project level. Do we have the same thing at group level?
Let's check. I think that,
so that's where I was referring to the fact that everyone's a little bit differently, and us wanting to do these things. Ideally, we want them at instance level,
which
but
yeah, probably won't.
So we've kind of come to the conclusion that we need to create a single group and put everything nested inside a single group because of the way that GitLab is currently architected. So it sucks, and I realize that you're looking at kind of everything that's going to become a namespace or workspace or whatever it's called, and you know, things will improve, but not soon enough, I don't think. So
okay, got it. So I do think that that's at the project level, like those charts are, but there's definitely like lots of things on the pipeline execution roadmap around pipeline reporting and flexibility, like so that you have a single place that you can go. And it's kind of like if you were to think about how our operations dashboard currently lives at like top level group, being able to have that for a pipeline view. So I think that that's an intent there. So like from a reporting perspective, I think that that is a great context. I'll send you the epic so that you can follow along.
Perfect. There. Yeah, no, that's great, because I'm sure that all these things already, people have thought about them, discussed them, and they're on I say they're on people's radars or roadmaps.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, because I realize that priorities, there's so many things we want to do, and it's hard to kind of get in that cut, so to speak. And again, I think of GitLab reporting as being one of the weakest areas. However, I think that's more because I don't know what's there and I don't use what's there, as opposed to it maybe not being there in the first place. Or maybe it's a lack of configurability and customizability, that you've got these out of the box views, but if you want to tweak something, you often don't have that ability. You know, again, being so used to a lot of what the work that we do is building reports for our clients. So we're used to, I guess, building the reports from scratch and having the full kind of flexibility to do exactly what we want. And hence why at the moment, you know, we're going to have a whole suite of reports that are querying the database directly. We need to be able to do our timesheets and our billing for our clients through GitLab and all that kind of stuff. So it's fine as a sort of interim measure, but what I'd love to do is kind of share what we want, share what we may be able to achieve, and then see if there's any desire, if it overlaps with what other people are already doing, or if we can help to maybe sort of push some of this stuff into core product. Again, my capacity to do that would be very, very limited at the moment because of the CRM stuff. And then after CRM, I'll be focusing more, I think, on time logs and generating timesheets within the product rather than them being external. But at some point, you know, I might find a little bit of time to sort of help build out the reporting side of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I've linked the two primary epics under C, I, 2, and 3 in our agenda. I think that those two are going to give you like better insight into what we're thinking about in pipeline execution. And then once I share all the stuff with James, he'll be able to set up a follow-up call with you and maybe his designer Vitika to kind of walk through these mocks and to really get some of your feedback into like, well, how can we get the flexibility at these different hierarchies in GitLab and those kind of nuances. I do think that there's a lot left to be desired in GitLab reporting. So hopefully we can start to improve this definitely. And then when you first mentioned this, like observability of CI/CD pipelines, that's why I linked that really big epic. We do have a lot of priority around monitoring pipelines and monitoring environments. So I think that you might get some of the things that you're looking for out of that work stream as well. But it does seem like there might be a couple of areas where you can get the reporting needs met for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing with 45,000 issues. It's very hard things to discover what's already out there and trying to search the right terms but that's why it's really, really helpful speaking to you and you sharing those bits, because I can follow along on some of those issues and epics. And you know, I've already cross-posted, so thanks for the list. I kind of shared my use case, which again realize is fairly specific, but I'm sure there will be a number of other people, and sometimes if it's a case of, oh well actually we can cater for that as well as what we're already catering for by just pivoting, tweaking this a tiny bit, then it's worth doing.
Okay, got it. I'll post this recording in our issue from YouTube Unfiltered. And then as you start to explore the notifications and scheduled pipelines, keep me posted and see if there's like any quick wins that we should be able to explore adding to the notifications of pipelines. I think that might be the only big gap that we have from that aspect. There's a lot that we have to work on from a reporting aspect, but I think from notification improvements, hopefully we can add something quick.
Yeah. Subscribe to Great Project Pipeline notification. Okay. Yeah, no, that's right. I think that is what I'd previously found, the pipeline emails integration. And I said it wasn't specifically for schedule pipelines. That shouldn't
Yeah.
matter a huge amount, but to give you an example why that
I actually have
potentially
another
won't.
call, so I'm sorry. I do need to jump.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
We're
no
we're
problem at
okay.
all.
We're okay. But definitely let's keep iterating in the issue so that we can build on this. Because
Yeah, no,
yeah. Okay, awesome. Thanks,
no,
Lee, so much.
no, that's perfect. Thanks, Jackie. Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.